Imagine that once a colonial superpower, Europe comprised of countries like Germany, UK, France, Italy, Spain, and many more ruled the entire world. Now it's a modern colony of the United States of America. After listening to this, you may be surprised that Europe is a whole continent and it is super rich. So how could it be a colony of the United States? So let us explain this to you. However, you may still be confused because of how sensitive this topic is, so feel free to let us know if you disagree. That can be our next topic. So let's get started. In terms of military strength, no country or continent compares with the United States of America. As the sole superpower on Earth, it is also the largest economy in the world. It has more than enough population to create the world's biggest consumer market and fulfill its military needs. Also, it is very oil-rich and has a large land area to support its economic activities, so it seems that everything is fine in the US. Now, you can talk about cultural issues and other social issues, but that is another matter. In contrast, Europe is also very rich. It is the third or second largest economy in the world. It has a strong modern military which is capable, it has a substantial population, and has a large consumer market. It competes directly with the United States in some areas. However, the question is, how did Europe become a modern colony of the US despite all of these resources? So comparing Europe to world powers such as China, Russia, and the United States, it lacks strategic autonomy, and it blindly follows the United States even when its actions harm its own interests. Now the question is, why Europe does this, and why does it not have a foreign policy of its own? It can be argued that it is too expensive to lead an independent foreign policy, so it has to rely on the United States for it. Europe's colonialism and Holocaust past means that it should let others lead. Europe is more focused on the welfare of its citizens. But none of these are the real reasons for its dependence on the United States. First of all, Europe lags behind the US in terms of a true European leadership. As we know, the European Union is not a military union, it is just an economic union, led by Germany and France along with 25 other European countries after the UK left. In reality, if you look at Macron and Scholz as the leaders of France and Germany, they are not leaders of Europe, they have regional influence primarily based in their own countries. Within Europe, different states have different foreign policies, so the European Union isn't truly united in every way. In contrast, if you see the US, it is also a union of 50 states, but it has a strong political system and one president for the entire country who has control over the state and its foreign policy. However, in Europe there is no unified political system and every country has its own foreign policy, so the US clearly has the upper hand here when it comes to developing foreign and other policies for all 50 states. Lastly, NATO exists. NATO is an international military organization that is headed by the United States of America, and is made up of powerful European nations such as Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Italy, and many more. As you can see, European countries do not have their own military organization. However, they are part of an international military organization called NATO, which is led by the United States. According to our readings about NATO, the majority of the organization's costs are covered by the United States. Most of NATO's weapons and military personnel are of American origin, and anything that poses a threat to the US, by default, poses a threat to Europe as well, and NATO is mainly designed to defend Europe against Russian military might, in case of a war. As you can see, NATO was created to protect European countries from potential Russian aggression, but is mainly funded and managed by the USA. Because of this, the US has a responsibility to protect European countries, since the US is the leader of NATO, so indirectly the US controls European security, and as Europe cannot provide its own security and is dependent on another country, it does not constitute a sovereign union. In addition, NATO military bases have been established in almost every European state. These bases are funded and managed by the US military, making it clear that the US has boots on the ground in Europe. Europe is therefore unable to protect itself without the US, so it follows and replicates US foreign policy, as well. This has made it a modern colony of the US, where the US dictates Europe's foreign policy and affects its economic relations with other countries deeply. If none of this convinces you, then consider the example of Ukraine, a European state bordering Russia and an old Soviet country. This country is currently at war with Russia. According to Russia, they raised the war against Ukraine due to Ukraine's decision to join NATO. And this war is a cause of that action. Before the war began, Ukraine depended on the US for help in getting back up. After the war started, Ukraine received more assistance in terms of money, weapons, intelligence, and almost everything to sustain a war, from the US. In comparison, Europe is doing much less despite the war happening in their neighboring country. This is because Ukraine has become a proxy for the United States, which is fighting Russia with the help of the US. Without this assistance, Ukraine would lose the war within weeks. Therefore, it proves that the US is fighting the European war as it has control over the Union. And, since the Second World War, Europe has become a modern colony of the US, but the US hasn't been admitted. In the end, you may have different opinions. If so, feel free to share them in the comments section, and we'll make a new video to go along with it. Thanks for watching DNA, and if you like our videos, please, do not forget to like and subscribe.